call the Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Please rise for silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome the newest supervisor to the board, Ryan Skoda from the town of Taconic. In doing this meeting, we're going to divert it a little bit from our normal protocol. At the end of the meeting, since we only have a couple of resolutions, I've asked Ron Caponera and Michael Reardon to update us on the Kronos project, which is our time and attendance project, which should only take a few minutes. And then I want to go into executive session to talk about contractual issues so that you can be updated on where we are there quickly. It shouldn't take us that long. So I'd like to request the clerk to call the roll.
Basson?
Here.
Weigel?
Here.
Grattan?
Here.
Benvenuto?
Here.
Stats? Keaveney?
Here.
Nair?
Here.
Lull?
Here.
Riley?
Here.
Nabozny?
Here.
Craig?
Here.
Chipkowski? Ligonia?
Here.
Sterling?
Here.
Cross?
Here.
Moore?
You.
Hughes?
Here.
Scalera?
Here.
Guzzi? Teal?
Here.
Morell?
Here.
Knott?
Here.
Skoda?
Here.
3101 present, 434 absent. We have a quorum.
Thank you. I need a motion to pay the bills, accept the treasurer's report, and file the minutes within the clerk's office.
So moved. Second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'd like to invite Sheriff Bartlett to come up and your group for presentation.
Sorry, I can get that.
I'll turn everything over to you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. I'm with the Department of Defense. We have a program which supports our Guard and Reserve members with their... Yes, sir.
Can you introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Emil Baker.
Thank you.
Emil Baker. And what we do is we actually support a law, it's a USERRA law, which guarantees the employment, reemployment of the Guard and the Reserve. Should they go to training, should they go for their annual training, or should they be deployed, such as this patrolman was 2 times in a combat zone, and again to Guantanamo Bay. So he nominated the sheriff because of the amazing support that the sheriff has given him and other veterans in his department. I've had a chance to talk to him and learn some of the wonderful things the sheriff has done. And my boss, I report to a major general, asked that I come and do this personally. What I have tonight for the sheriff is a Patriot Award. It's from the Department of Defense, and it's for a patriotic employer. And when someone just honors the USERRA law, that's great, and that has to be done. But it's the spirit and the fellowship that somebody offers the soldier, understanding what that soldier goes through, both with their family, with themselves, the readjustment period when you come back from a combat zone, which is significant. And this man right here has done an amazing job. So the nomination went in, the Department of Defense awarded this, and it's my pleasure to present it to the sheriff tonight. So, sir.
two boys are sick, so the wife is playing nurse right now, so they couldn't be here tonight. But on behalf of my family, I can't thank Sheriff Bartlett enough for everything he did for us before I left, while I was gone, and even when I came back. So it's nice to know that even when you're out of the country and 1,000 miles away, that you still do. You have a job and you have a great boss who's going to go above and beyond for you. And it's just that family atmosphere that just makes our whole department great.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm so very fortunate to have the employees that I have, but also the veterans. I have so many people that have been deployed in combat zones. I have so many people that have been deployed to other avenues of the military. And if I can get to a vet, I hire a vet. And PJ is a phenomenal deputy sheriff. I was so, I want to say disappointed, but I was when he left for a year, because it's a big void to fill when I lose a deputy of this quality. And he's back now. I'm glad he's back safe. And I just can't thank the Department of Defense enough for doing this. Mr. Chairman, thank you for letting us come here and do this. I thought it was very important for the supervisors to see. And, you know, my name's on it, but it's not just me. I have wonderful command staff like Lieutenant Lopez. The undersheriff couldn't be here tonight. He had a prior engagement. And if it wasn't for our team, we wouldn't be able to take care of this. And the team's approach and the team's values and the overall thought process. So thank you very much for letting me take a few minutes of your time. My lovely wife came down to take a couple pictures. So have a good evening and Happy New Year to everybody if I haven't seen you already. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I'd like to request the clerk read the resolutions.
Okay, all two of them.
Take your time.
Resolution 14 of 2017 by Supervisor Keaveney. Resolution 15 of 2017 by Supervisor Keaveney.
Mr. Chairman, I have a clean sweep of these two resolutions. I offer these resolutions for adoption.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Do any supervisors have any other business to bring to the board? Supervisor Cross.
Just an announcement, on Sunday at 6 o'clock, our Interfaith Council will be holding our annual Martin Luther King Day celebration at Shallow Baptist Church. We invite you, please come.
Thank you, Irv.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Under board appointments, I'm going to be appointing a subcommittee, which is a position review committee, and it's a committee to look at not individuals in their jobs, but to look at job titles and sort of rate those job titles in terms of salary range and so on, to give us a little more of a standard guide to go by when we're doing the budget every year. And I'm asking, I've asked Mike Benvenuto and Art Basson to be the Board of Supervisors members, and I'm also appointing Michael Williams Reardon, Ron Caponera, Rob Fitzsimmons, PJ Keeler, Jack Mapp, who's our newly appointed health director, representatives from civil service, representatives from public safety, and representatives from DPW. And these are be non-bargaining unit positions, not union positions. So, thank you. I'm going to ask Ron and Michelle to come up and do a... I'm sorry, Michael?
Did it again.
We're going to change our name.
Yeah. You're going to be Michelle from now on. Ron and Michael.
Next thing you'll be calling her Mike.
Thank you, sir.
You're going to have to move. Get popcorn.
Good evening, how are you all? I think you all certainly you to call me worse, okay. Thank you all for allowing us to take a few minutes of your time just to let you know about the county's Kronos initiative, which is the brand new timekeeping system that the county is implementing throughout our county office buildings. As many of you may remember, back in November of 2014, my office, Ron's office as the controller, PJ as our county treasurer, Rod Fitzsimmons as our county attorney, worked with Elena DeFeo-Keen, our county labor counsel, in order to look at a uniform payroll policy for countywide employees and staffing. And that ranges everything from our management people, our management people, as well as going right down to our part-time and per diem individuals. This was a result from the county having gone through a New York State pension integrity audit, as well as a friendly visit from the Office of the State Comptrollers. So from those two visits, we were able to kind of, earmark some areas where we could fine-tune keeping our records and getting them automated for our payroll. So from that, we did our regular process of going out to bid and came up with Kronos, which is one of the largest and most efficient timekeeping systems in municipalities and nonprofits. So from that, we were able to create a uniform payroll policy, which came for all of you and was passed on. And from that, we now have a tool that we're able to start implementing Kronos within all of our county office buildings and county departments. Okay.
So with that, where are we today and where we stand going in the future? This process is a yearly long process, sometimes up to 18 months. It'll probably take us 18 months to implement. It's not something you just rush out and you throw the entire county's workforce on Kronos. Having gone through this before, a large municipality, it's best to take a small bite at a time and you work your way into it. One of the big things was writing payrolls for the unions, all right, according to all the contracts that we have with unions. Each union is different, as you know. But if you're a UPSCU union member in, let's say, solid waste, it shouldn't vary too much if you work in the highway department or in facilities, except for with some small variations for that. Now, we should mention Zeb, okay, who is a very big integral part of Kronos implementation. He's the one that's actually spearheading the software, what it takes to put this in place. He's the one that's going out and meeting with all the departments before we go live with Kronos and sitting down with their management staff and so forth, okay? And what are their specific needs that might be a little bit different from one department to the other department. And he's done a magnificent job in doing this, okay? We couldn't have had a better individual help us with this implementation. He is the project manager. We did have an implementation team that we put together over a year ago where we took all the payroll clerks from all the departments, brought them together and say, here's what we want to do. Have us, give us some input of how you think it should work. And we brought the Kronos people in, the experts. Locally, it's MM Hayes out of Manans. And they came and they did the presentations and so forth. And they still come periodically, okay, and meet with our staff and do training and in-service for that. So we started this project. We put the whole county into what we call groups, all right? And we started back, believe it or not, in April of last year. And of course, we started with my department and Michael's department, okay, as the beta tester, okay? So each department, each group has a training day where we sit down with the individuals, the managers, the department heads, the supervisors, those people that do time entry with it, and we do training. Again, Zeb does most of this training. Then we have what we call beginning live swipe dates in MIR. So this is where we parallel the existing payroll, okay, as we process it in Munis as it's done the old way, and we parallel it with actual Kronos system of swiping in. And then what happened? I lost the power. I don't know, maybe power. Just on the screen.
Still on the
cord. And by the way, the time clocks, and you'll see them in, probably you'll notice them already in the hallways here. We have one in each floor for it. They're biometric clocks. They're not the old things with time cards anymore. They're not the old ones where you swipe with a magnetic swipe anymore. All right, these are biometric clocks, okay? Where they take an imprint of your finger, not a fingerprint, but an imprint of your finger. And we take both your left and your right finger, and what you do is you go to one of these time clocks, you key in your employee ID number, all right, you enter that, and you press your finger on it, and it logs you in, okay? But the clocks are also used to request time off. If the employee wants to go and see what their accrual benefit times are, they can certainly do that, all right? If you want a personal day, vacation day, you schedule it on your time clock, it goes to your supervisor, and he or she will approve that in the system of Kronos for that. So you have the training date, you have what we call the parallel period, okay? And then last time that you go in is the go live date, where we actually process live in Kronos, okay? And the file is passed from Kronos into our Munis payroll system. So you can see down the groups, where we want group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5 was a big group because it was our first DPW department, solid waste. So we took all those employees that were DPW under that contract, all right, and integrated them into it. So going down the line, and we're currently right here, okay? So the Board of Elections, all right, are currently one scheduled to go next. Now, we put, where is Department of Social Services. It's no small trick, okay? That's our largest county department. We have over 160 employees, 63 employees, punching or swiping in that clock, all right? And we had to work through the unions because they have different issues with some of the unique things that they have in processing time and flex benefit time, all right, that they have under contract and so forth. And there's some variations of what supervisors were doing, what pay rules, and what processing, what pay, and overtime, and so forth like that. And we're still working that out, to be honest with you, okay, trying to make that smooth transition into it. So there's a little break there. Going forward, what we have to do yet this year are these departments. We have real property, we have treasurers, and county clerk. So that's all 560. So that's the madness behind that. All right, they'll come online.
We've already met with real property. We're meeting with the county clerk next week. So we're already starting to move forward with that.
And then we'll move to facilities. Facilities staff itself, okay, will come on. Then engineering, highway department, and machinery roads. This is a big department. All right, and they'll come in sometime in spring of 2017. And then in the summer, we'll have Assembly Garage, communications, all public safety. All right, and it's intentionally set like that to have the deputy sheriffs go last in public safety, because the sheriff's department, they too have a lot of variations in their schedules. We're talking 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. They have court duties and so forth, okay? And you need to work those things in the mapping of the Kronos system into units. So the thought is, if you nail the majority of the county's employees, then you're ready to take on what would be the hardest department, the largest department being public safety for that. So that's our schedule, all right? And it's worked fairly well, okay, for that. Any questions on the schedule where we've been?
So certainly in addition to size, we also have to take into consideration that the county currently has 4 collective bargaining agreements that we have negotiated after the terms of the contract. The substantial amount of departments that you're looking at already are represented by the United Public Service Employees Union. It's a local 424 UPSEU. So that was our largest and first union that we met with. With only a couple of meetings, we were able to come to a very quick understanding of the need of automated time and attendance, and we're able to come to a very preliminary agreement on how the county was going to be able to move forward in order to ensure that the same rules and policies were being followed throughout the county. So really, all that really needed to be discussed was in reference to, compliance with the Fair Labor Standards Act. The county does pay in 15-minute increments, so the county would continue to use the 7-8-minute rule. For anyone not familiar with that, that's in reference to how when you are paid in 15-minute increments, when you use an automated punching system, a rollback method of 7 minutes versus a roll forward minute from 8 to 15 in a quarter minute is how it registers on a time clock. So that is something that the county has been practicing even before automated systems, so that was not a problem to come to an agreement on that. Employees do not punch for lunch periods. There's an automatic deduction that is deducted from their time cards. We also took a look at overtime, how for any overtime to be paid in any capacity, it must be pre-approved. So the system is set up where anything over their regular hours that they're paid for the day, it automatically goes into a nice little bucket, and the person who's going to that person's time card approves that in order for them to ensure that they're being paid with supervisor approval. The only other thing that really needed to be discussed was the fact that based on operational needs of each department, every single department may have its own ins and outs on how payroll or things are handled. Something so simple as your hours of operation could drive how individuals have been taking their lunches, schedules in order to accommodate that, when breaks are going to be, those types of things. So as Zeb and myself and Ron met with the departments from the beginning, those were the types of things that were hashed out because people were concerned immediately that Kronos was punitive. They thought that the sole purpose of us putting this system in was to be used to punish them. And once they saw the efficiency and the beauty of this system and how much time it could save not only the individuals that are processing the payroll, but most importantly, the employees themselves, from being able to get their own information and to be effectively be able to record their own timekeeping, it really started to just kind of support the system more and more as word of mouth spread and more departments started to look at what a great system it is. So we were, no problem, met with UPSU, came down with those things. As Ron's looking at the, talking about the deputy corrections, deputy sheriff's corrections, and emergency 911, those are our 3 other unions. So the process will start the same. Ron and myself, Elena or Rob, and we'll sit down with the unions and just discuss with them what the intention of the county is and talk about certainly the implementation of this system and the successes in the other departments throughout the county.
Now, you talk about efficiencies and why we do them. A year ago, we were doing payroll by hand on the old green bar computer sheets, where every department in this county would write their hours on that green bar. Okay, how antiquated, I mean, that's 2017, and yet we're a green bar a year ago. And department managers, whatever, would sign off on those green bar sheets, and we passed over to our payroll department, and our payroll department in there. Okay, that's gone. Okay, now Kronos, by entering your time in and out, all right, and even managers as ourselves hit that clock when we come into the day and when we leave. All right, we're entering that now. We're salary exempt employees, but nevertheless, we're still scoring when we come in and out. The efficiency of not doing that manual timekeeping has been tremendous. All right, and you yourself as supervisors will see some of that efficiencies tomorrow. Because as we passed the board resolution last month, all right, we're now going to have one payroll for all our departments. Instead of 1 week the general fund and all the general fund departments, the next week would be Pine Haven, solid waste and the highway department, and then the next week would be the general fund again, and then the last month of the week of the month, guess what? Your payroll, okay? We passed the resolution, we're doing away with that because of efficiencies, all right? And everybody's gonna be combined into one payroll. So that means you, as Board of Supervisors, you might have noticed if you direct deposit with your payroll, you might have gotten your notification yesterday that it was processed, all right? Or definitely by tomorrow, you'll get your notification that your money's in the bank. So you're on cycle with the general fund and the rest of us for
Does
that.
this mean we're going to get
Your
2
money,
checks?
you're gonna get 26 cents a year, 26
26.
cents checks a year, just like all of us.
Right.
All
Some
right?
even 3 in certain.
So your paycheck's cut in half now. Every 2 weeks, your paycheck's in half.
But
I
at
noticed-
Art,
I
you
noticed
get your
that.
money faster.
I noticed that, but I also noticed that the amount credited was 0.
which is a very efficient way to save money.
What'd you say, Don?
Yeah, just curious, it sounds like a great system. The clocks, I mean, that sounds like a bottleneck. I mean, that must be accounted for by the number of employees.
In the larger departments, it's taking into consideration how many employees were in which areas. So say, for example, in the Department of Social Services, that has 158 individuals, there's 3 clocks on each floor.
And this building here, we got 1 clock at every floor, and that seems to be fine for us.
And even through this process of meeting with the county departments and then kind of fine tuning it afterwards, you know, they were able to come up with policies where, you know, an employee can do everything from soup to nuts on the clock. They can punch in, they can punch out, but they can also, as Ron said, request time off in advance, sick time for time they've already taken, vacation time coming up within the future year. They can also check their accruals on the clock. So to avoid the bottlenecking, we've also instituted policies for employees to be able to do that throughout the day and not necessarily at the heavy punch in and punch out times to accommodate people coming in and out of the shifts.
So there's a screen, you can actually read information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Is this in, excuse me, is this in place at all our buildings?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so if I have a salaried employee who is not really showing up for work, we're going to find that out.
Oh, yeah, instantly, that same day.
That's one of the reasons we're just moving to all this to get in compliance with the controller's audit that we had 2 years ago, 3 years ago.
And it's very helpful, all the clocks are integrated, so if I happen to go down to OFA, to a meeting at 3:25, I can punch in down there. I end up in the sheriff's department, I can punch out there if I leave for the day. But it does register exactly to the minute. You cannot change the punches. You are able to override them if, say, there was a change punch form that had to be done or something having to do with overtime, but the electronic record of the actual time recorded always stays there.
And that comes in saving dollars, all right? Because now you're actually going to have a time record. We're going to pay, especially the non-bargaining employees, okay? You might come in and just put 7 hours for the day on those old green bar sheets. Not no more. Because now you're actually swiping in and swiping out, and you're being held accountable for that. And even the managers, because all the managers have to report up. And the way we structure it, every manager reports to Kelly, okay? And it's directed by the chairman of the board. All right, so my time request and my time is approved by Kelly, not me, not my assistant Becky, but by Kelly. And she handles all managers, okay, in the county. So she's keeping track of their vacations and so forth for that. So there's a lot of accountability that's built into this system, and accountability will eventually turn into cost savings, as you'll see for that. They even got mobile apps. So if I'm at a seminar tomorrow, okay, I go online, there's a mobile app here for Kronos, and punch myself in at 8 o'clock, or out. And that's mobile apps are going to be used for our clinical departments, like in mental health, and some of our clinicians are on site and they have to go do home visits and so forth. They can't get to a clock. There's a mobile app, okay, for that. So even, taking that even further for that.
How's it going to be handled, people that say, I forgot?
All right. If you forget to punch.
Well, I mean, it happens all the time.
It does happen all the time.
People say it, whether they do it or not.
Well, there's a form we produce, okay? Matter of fact, I might have it here for you. Let's see.
Yeah, whether somebody honestly forgot or...
I think before the automation, they were dealing with that anyway, with people with their written on there, putting, if they came in at 8:15, they were saying they came in at 8 o'clock. So what a lot of the managers have been doing is, there's the benefit of the doubt, just like with any other type of disciplinary process. Of course, we're going to trust our employees. But if it seems that there's a pattern, just like sick abuse pattern, or any other patterns that happen with personnel, then they're addressing that immediately with their staff.
And so we have this missed punch form where that happens, okay? I forget the punch. I might walk out and I forget the punch out or something like that, okay? All right, so Kelly or whoever manager is responsible for that person, because it's a hierarchy that goes up with this system, okay? If you miss a punch, you have to fill out one of these, okay? Because you can't process the time on payroll, Kronos, unless you have all your punches there. It's as simple as that. All right, so if you miss a punch, it's got to get in there. Otherwise, you're not going to sign off on it. It can't be processed. All right, so it's a pretty fail-safe system that handles all of it.
So the policy for that would be specific to each department?
It's not a county-wide policy?
There is a county form policy in reference to the 5 principles, and then each separate department will have their own memo of understanding as far as how it pertains to their operations. One of the weaknesses that this caught was the fact that previously when people were doing their payroll, okay, a payroll clerk was the person who was actually putting the hours into the timekeeping system. So there was really no accountability on behalf of the employee. The employee was not attesting to their hours. So if you had an employee who wasn't necessarily honest, there wasn't really a signature from them attesting to that. This form that Ron was showing to you is the employee actually filling out that time record, attesting to his or her own payroll, and then bringing it to their supervisor. And it's a very powerful tool for the fact of, they are attesting to their records. The uniform payroll policy was drafted with employee accountability.
Now, that's what we got hit by state controller's office.
Exactly.
That was a big chunk of it, and you have subordinates that were approving their supervisor's salary. That's a no-no, okay? It goes up, not down.
Ron, does the system track the mobile app? Because I'm sitting in traffic, I know I'm late. I punch in from my mobile app in my car,
It knows exactly where it is
It
and where
does.
you punch it in by, absolutely.
so you'll know if
Oh,
somebody's
yeah,
keeping.
I know if you punched it at home.
And the mobile apps are not being just handed out to employees. I mean, that's something that, as of right now, no one's registered to a mobile app yet. So they'll have their own rules and regulations put into place, as well as most of those are issued with GPS, so it can also tell us that
So,
they're sitting.
so what do we do with a salaried employee who's not putting in the hours that the job requires? Do we dock their salary? What do we do?
The clock is set to calculate based on the Fair Labor Standards Act. So when, say for example, use me, okay? My time card every single week, if I was not putting in my hours, that goes as a department head. The chairman of the board has designated his clerk, so Kelly Bacaro gets my timesheets. Just like I'm subject to auditing my own timesheet, I would expect for her to be looking at my timesheet also. She's approving that. So if I'm working, 2 hours a day, I would expect for her to have that conversation with the chairman or with another supervisor to say, wow, this is, and he's going to get into the actual auditing process of all of this too, which is another catch-all.
Excuse me, so exempt employees, were we previously asking them to keep track of their hours? Normally you don't with an exempt employee.
Exactly.
So we weren't before?
Exempt employees, some departments were handing in timesheets and some were not.
So now all salaried, exempt and non-exempt are going to be clocking in and
Every
clocking out?
employee,
Even part-time.
every employee in the county, with the exception of individuals who are auto-paid, because they fall under certain criteria of a part-time individual who say is not involved in the pension system, but their hours are logged differently. So say, for example, an emergency management individual who gets paid a flat rate, that's how they're paid. So they would not be doing that.
If we have somebody making $50,000 a year,
Yes.
let's say, do we have a job description that says they should be working 8 hours a day or
When your
standard
salaried
workday?
employees are hired, they're told they're hired for a 35-hour week or a 40-hour
Okay,
week.
so if they don't meet that criteria, we're going to take some action against them, correct?
Yeah, well, don't forget, it goes back to what the Fair Labor Law, if you're a salary exempt employee and you meet the criteria for that, okay, you're on a 3.5-hour payroll, right, Elena? Okay, that's what it is. I mean, you come in as a salary exempt employee, if you put 3.5 hours in, you're going to get paid your 7 hours for the day. That's the law.
More than
Okay. All right. More than, okay, 3 hours and 36 minutes.
Right, but if that same employee works 50 hours, they're still getting the same amount.
That's right.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's what it
Now,
is.
if that employee comes in and puts that 3 and 36 minutes in for 4 or 5 days during a week,
Right.
we got a problem. It's going to show on the time clock, okay? And that's what's going to come to the attention of either the manager, the supervisor, or the chairman through Kelly, as you got a problem here. All right, remember, you're a salaried employee, you're getting paid a salary to perform a job, okay? And the expectation is that you will complete that job, okay? And get paid that salary for whatever hours it takes for that. And that's
Because
the law.
that's in compliance still with the Fair Labor Standards Act, but it's not in compliance with the fact that you, as the members of the Board of Supervisors, hired individuals to be in full-time capacity for them to be working those full-time hours. So if you were noticing that an individual was able to successfully complete their job in 15 to 20 hours a week, why would you possibly continue to pay them at a full-time salary? So,
And just one other thing, I don't want to take up too much of your time, which leads to the other thing, all right, is auditing, okay? That's the reason why we did the payroll policy and procedure, all right, was to make sure that's being captured and those rules are specifically set out. And in that policy and procedures, there is a segment or section in there where I, as controller, my department has to go out and audit 3 times a year, 2 departments, or 6 departments a year. What Kronos does, it provides an excellent auditing tool. And to date, we've performed 3 audits, my staff, which includes, myself, Cassie, and Tony, our auditors. We've audited Pine Haven once. We audited the Public Defender's Office once. And we did a real detailed audit on DSS, okay? Now, next month, if Matt okays it, Chairman, I'll present those audit findings in front of a combination of the Point One Committee and the Audit Committee, and I'll show you where those findings are for you. All right, what occurred. So, a lot of issues that were found because we went back and looked at payroll being processed prior to Kronos, and then we looked at payroll being processed with that same department with Kronos. And you go, depending upon the size of the department, you pull them a sample, all right, and you look at their time records going back for it. So you wouldn't be surprised what we found, okay? You bring Kronos in, a lot of those issues that you found prior to Kronos are now gone, just because of the implementation of the software and the restrictions it has. So you'll be forthcoming in some of those audits that we do.
Is there any accommodation for people who take work home and work at night, exempt employees that are putting more hours in, to take the more positive approach that a job not actually takes 65 hours a week and we don't catch it because we're not tracking that? Is there a form for that, or how do they?
no, I mean, if the individuals, what some of the people are doing, if they're even doing the hours in here, they're recording those on their time card. The time system knows to only pay them for the 35 hours, but they're capturing the hours that they're actually working also. So, per the policy also, there are certain departments that are able to come up with their own discretionary policies, and that's been created and done through that too. So certainly if anyone has any questions or would like to see any of the forms or anything, by all means contact either my office or Ron's office. I'd be more than happy to sit down with you, and if you want to see Kronos live, we can certainly do that too. We have it on all of our PCs. As he mentioned, unfortunately, Zeb Haggerty, he came from our MIS department, and then when through the Central Business Office, nominated and hired him to be the project coordinator for the county. And I think you said that it was just the greatest decision. He is an incredibly intelligent and very well-versed individual, works directly for Rick Giuliano in the MIS department. He's a great asset to them and has been to us and to this program. And I apologize he wasn't able to be here with us tonight. But certainly you're welcome to contact him at any time also. He works out of the satellite office right in our building here in floor 1. He makes time to training, he makes time to discuss it, he gets excited about this stuff, so, which is good.
Great piece of software. And a lot of municipalities have used Kronos, state uses it, and so forth. Didn't go wrong with that.
Okay. Thank you,
Thank you all very much.
Michael and Ron. I got it right that time. I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to talk about a specific contractual issue.
So moved.
Motion by Pat Graff, second by Bill Hughes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I'd like Michael Reardon to stay, and Ron and PJ, please.